Hi there, that's right, Nick Dutch back on the camera again one more time. Now, my previous videos on the subject of the Ouija board have stimulated a touch of interest, but there's also been a few people approaching me saying, I can't use it properly, can you help or can you advise me? And so what I thought I'd do is I'd just run down the way that I understand how this thing either could or should be used to try and get any particular results whatsoever. I start from the point of view that it is the ideomotor effect, which is essentially what you're using. My other point of view is a variety of belief, one can call it a weak belief maybe, that there is something else which could be planting the ideas in your mind or could be influencing your mind, which could then have the effect of making the planchette move about the board. The way that you use the Ouija board is you do not lay it down on the ground with the planchette on it and then talk to it without touching it. No, that's not the way you do it. As it uses the ideomotor effect, you've got to have your fingers just touching the board, just touching the planchette, just gently. Now, some on the left, some on the right, whatever way you feel most comfortable. And do just sit nice and comfortable and relaxed. You don't have to hold yourself in an uncomfortable posture. You don't have to force yourself to stand upright. Keep your muscles relaxed. If you want to do a muscle relaxation exercise beforehand, including something just to relax the muscles and the bones and in your hands and in your fingers, then basically do that as well. It's quite important just to be relaxed and just to allow yourself to enjoy the experience. You can start with the planchette anywhere on the board, that doesn't matter whatsoever. It's a very good idea to train yourself as to where all the letters are. If you are using the ideomotor effect, it would make sense that you've got to train your brain, you've got to train your mind into where all the letters are on the board, where all the numbers are, where the yes and no bit, hello and goodbye bits are. And you do that just through practicing without doing it in the form of a seance, just through moving the planchette around, spelling out words and phrases, just so that you can train your brain into this. And maybe you can do this over many weeks. One would suggest something like maybe even anything up to 90 days, because it can take that long for your brain to learn a new skill. And the skill in this particular exercise is for there to be some kind of intuitive understanding as to where all the letters are. But that can only happen if you basically practice an awful lot. It's also recommended that you be someone who can do meditation. The reason for that is because it's relaxing and it allows other ideas to come from your subconscious mind or from what seems like your subconscious mind, which can then have the apparent result of moving the planchette on the board itself. As far as touching the planchette itself is concerned, let your fingers just hang. Just hang and just touch the planchette. You don't need to force it, because if you force it, you're just going to be creating a lot of friction between the planchette and the board itself, and you're not going to get any movement at all. Alright, this is about like amplifying the little movements of your fingers. When you've actually got your fingers on the board, on the planchette's on the board, don't stare at it. Okay, a watched pot never boils. You can look at it gently through slightly blurry vision. Don't focus on it too hard. Just be aware of it in a very gentle kind of a way. Just be aware of where the planchette is, your fingers, your posture, hanging your fingers down and just touching the planchette. Nice and easy. Bear that in mind. Fingers just touching. Obviously firmly enough so that the little movements of your fingers can actually move the planchette around, but not so firm that you're creating friction. Then basically you're more or less set to go and to practice it. As far as what spirits you should be talking to, well, that's up to you, and you can even make up spirits. There was one scary story I heard about a guy who created this fictitious spirit in his own mind, but had like a schizophrenic personality. It would oscillate between one extreme and the other, and he called the character Coin. There was also an Oriental chap who had a very similar imaginary spirit that he created, an imaginary spirit guide with the same kind of mentality, but he called this particular guide Qua. So there's some interesting parallels there. So sometimes it is assumed by some people, or some people feel that they have reason to believe, that spirits that we make up might actually be other spirits communicating to us to allow them to have more influence. But it's something to be played around with. It's not something to be taken seriously. With something like this, it is full of confounding variables. The confounding variables include anything else that could be going on inside your mind, maybe an inability to relax and to be focused and to feel open, or to have a certain quantity of belief. If you're a complete disbeliever, then there's nothing that can make the device work for you properly. It's worthwhile trying to cultivate some belief deliberately, so that you can then use that when you're doing your own Ouija board seances. The thing to do is to enjoy it. Once you've had some results, or you've had something coming out of the board in terms of a apparent message, then don't automatically assume it is coming from the spirit, because it might not. Alright? A good thing to do would be just to take a few notes and see whether there is some kind of correlation between what the message was and events that may transpire in the future, or other things you might find out about. And that's more or less all there is to it. It's not a big scary thing, it's just a piece of pasteboard, and this is just made out of fiberboard. It's a very cheap construction, it's quite well printed, so it looks good, so that can allow you to invest more faith in it. And the rest is up to you to play around with. If you're skeptical, then believe it's the ideomotor effects. Believe you're contacting something inside yourself, or indeed reaching into your own subconscious mind. And that will help you to have a few successful sessions. In the meantime, relax, do meditation, do any form of preparation you want to beforehand, including chanting, prayer, or just doing a whole body relaxation exercise, or doing maybe a shamanic trance drumming session beforehand, just to get you into that tranquil state of mind whereby strange things could possibly happen. It's fun, and it can give you a moment of introspection. It's like any other form of divination tool. It's there to give you some opportunities to reflect, and how you use that is up to you. But I would say try and be rational about the messages that come through, and don't get too emotional or too emotionally involved in the messages that come through, because that might not necessarily do you any good. Play it cool. I'm pretty sure that anyone could learn to go through the mental gymnastics that they need to learn how to use the Ouija board in an effective and entertaining manner. And yeah, it's great in parties. It can hold people together in spooky occasions, and it's fun. Enjoy your seances.